with the winter on the way, we wanted that out of the driveway so I can plow snow. I got it out here in the pasture just for storage this winter, and I'm gonna put it up on some blocks to keep those wheels out of the dirt. And most importantly, and a pet peeve of my dad and granddad, make sure you get the tongue up out of the dirt on a block too.
Well, you've heard me talking about it, and I've been waiting for a special day to get this one out, and it's getting close to my grandpa's birthday, so I thought this would be a great opportunity to showcase this machine. And this Caterpillar 22 is a 1937 2F9425 SP.
I've been told that SP stands for special parts, and that could have been something as simple as a belt pulley. Frankly, I've never figured out exactly what the special parts on this machine are.
And obviously this one's a narrow gauge. It's a crank start. Actually starts quite well. It had some fuel system issues for a reason that, let me show you here real quick. We've always had trouble starting this machine, and we were convinced it maybe needed plugs, wires, magneto work. We weren't quite sure. It always seemed fuel starved, and it would intermittently stop and shut down. Well, today I came out to start it up, and I'm doing my normal walk around, checking the radiator, checking the engine oil, checking all the other compartments, looking for leaks. I opened up the fuel tank right there, and inside there was 2 brass discs. Now, don't ask me why or where these came from, but they're just big enough that they will cover up the fuel line where it comes in right out of the valve. And I've never been a fisherman, and it took quite a bit of work to get those out of there. Now, this machine is exactly 2 years older than 4G Little Lefty, so they're about the same vintage. Although this one runs on gasoline, and Lefty's obviously diesel. Now, I did have this ring here, and the reason this ring is here is to pull a trip, and we used it actually pulling a one-way. You could pull the trip, it would cam up and come up out of the ground. That trip is for drawbar implements that you hook there, and you tie a rope back to your implement. You remember me saying that everything's a draw pin on the farm, and that is definitely the case even here. We have an old valve that works perfect. And back under there, there's your brake adjustments, the fillers for the final drives on each side there. Of course, your equipment tag. This is a matching numbers unit by the serial number on the block. You might be able to see in there, but this block has been welded. So at one point or another, something came through the side of that block or it froze. Got your normal oil bath air cleaner and the dust collector. And kind of a different sort of exhaust that somebody's rigged up on here, but still works. Unlike the D4, this has a giant Eisman magneto, whereas the one on the D4 is just for the pony motor, only has 2 cylinders to take care of. This one is 4. This is a foot clutch, and your left and right brakes are over on your right hand side. Hand throttle, steering clutches, left and right, your gear selector, and magneto switch off and on. There's another gauge here that is for water temp. I don't have it. And there's one in here. It looks like a rebuilt Sylphin gauge for the oil pressure. Now, I don't know that my grandfather rebuilt this. He might have bought it this way. I know he painted some of these parts later on, but it sat for quite a while. This is a reproduction seat on the back here. It's fairly new. Grandpa likes cats as much as I do. And I'm not blaming you for this, Big Stripes. This was a cat a lot older than you that actually ripped the cushion down here and up there. We were none too happy about that. The reason that this tractor holds such a soft spot in our hearts is because our family broke out a lot of ground in Colorado with 22 cats. We had 2 of them over the years. They didn't have them long. They had trouble with the sand and the dirt, tearing out the bellow seals and the final drives leaking. So they ended up trading them in for the John Deere D, but my grandfather's always had a love for them. This machine also has provisions for a winter front up here, so you could cover up part of the radiator and keep it warm in the winter. It's possible that that is the SP, the special part. On this fuel tank, it's got several layers of paint. It looks like maybe even some OD green underneath. Some of the cat canary yellow, and some of the newer cat kind of a mustard yellow. You keep hearing cat, don't you? Now, I don't know much about D2s, but from my perspective, and I'm just throwing this out there, I suspect this shares a lot of parts in common with the D2s. The cat wants to argue with that statement. On the undercarriage, the chains aren't too bad. They're not terrible. As much as we run it, which is not much at all. And there's the master link right there. And one thing about Grandpa, he grease rollers. Sprockets aren't necessarily in great shape, and the pins have been turned. It does have the track guards, and the lower track guards inside and out are intact. You can see there is some wear on the grousers. There's scalloping on the fronts. The corners aren't sharp like they should be. I don't know what the reason for this is, but ergonomically, this machine is a lot more friendly. Hi, kitty. This machine is a lot easier for me to run than the D4. I feel like I fit in here quite comfortably, whereas when I run the D4, I feel like I'm always pulling the steering clutches into my chest. Somebody had recently rebuilt this carburetor. Another reason I think that we have a lot of problems with the fuel system and starting on this is the way that the fuel line runs on here. It's kind of bizarre to me, but it keeps it out of the way of other things. Let me show you. From the fuel tank, it drops through that valve right there, and then through that fuel line that goes to the right side of the machine. Back there, you can barely see it. There's that fuel line. Runs down here under the magneto, all the way around the front of the machine, up here into the fuel bowl, and I believe that's a fuel pump, and into that line right there, and back around the other side of the engine, over here to where it finally goes around the back of the carburetor and into the back of the carburetor. That seems like a long journey for a fuel line that actually is the carburetor to the fuel tank. It goes all the way around the machine. I imagine they did that so they could run the fuel pump off the accessories on the other side of the engine. I've been doing a lot of rearranging out here, trying to get 5T inside for the winter. Now it's time to put the old 22 back inside. Fuel tank on. Magneto on. Throttle all the way back. Into this fuel bowl here. A couple squirts of gasoline. I always run them out of gas, so last step, make sure you shut your mag off. 5T, how did you get in here? I do want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. What's the matter? You couldn't let Buddy upstage you, could ya?